Most people think the Sarasota cost of living conversation starts with one number, home price. And if that number goes up, life here must be getting harder. If that number cools off, life here must be getting easier. And that sounds logical. It also is why a lot of people get this market wrong. Because the real cost of living in Sarasota is not just what it takes to buy the house, it is what it takes to carry the life that comes with the house. That is the lens for this episode. If you have watched this series in order, there is a point where the market story gets more practical. In a previous episode, we talked about prices softening and what that really meant. We talked about choosing the right Sarasota area for your lifestyle. And in another, we talked about where I would live if I moved to Sarasota today. And now we need to talk about the part of the move that people often underestimate until after closing, the monthly life, because that is where the real math shows up. In Sarasota County, the February 2026 median sale price for single-family homes was $475,000, which is down 5% from the year earlier, while sellers are still receiving a median of 94% of original list price. That tells you the market is more negotiable than it was at the peak. And it also tells you something else. Softer pricing does not automatically mean cheap living. That is the strong implication. A lower or softer sale price can make the headline feel better, while the monthly ownership reality still feels heavy. That is why people move here thinking this is manageable, and then 6 months later realize the cost conversation was never only about the mortgage. It was about taxes, insurance, utilities, flood exposure, HOAs, maintenance, storm preparation, and the kind of lifestyle spending that quietly grows when you live in a place people usually experience on vacation. So the core question for this episode is not, is Sarasota expensive? That is too broad to help anyone. The better question is this: what do people get wrong when they try to estimate what it actually costs to live in Sarasota full time? That is the question I want to answer. And I want to answer it with real logic, not broad talking points, because the mistake people make is usually not that they forgot to check the mortgage payment. The mistake is that they estimated Sarasota like a tourist, not like an owner. That is where cause and effect matters. And if you buy closer to the water, insurance and flood questions usually get more serious. If you buy into a community with more amenities, your monthly fees may stay with you whether you use those amenities heavily or not. If you buy an older home west of the trail because you love the charm, the systems and the maintenance may ask more of you than the listing photos suggested. And if you buy further east for newer construction and lower repair risk, you may trade that for CDD fees, HOA structures, or a daily pattern that fits your life less than you expected. That is Sarasota. Everything here is a trade. And if you do not understand the trade, the monthly life will correct you. This is also where relocation fear shows up. People are not usually scared of the beach. They are not usually scared of the restaurants or the sunshine or the beauty. They are scared of this. What if we move here, buy the house, and then realize the full monthly number is higher than we expected? That is real fear. And honestly, it should be. Because the people who tend to do the best here are not the people who ignore that question. They are the people who answer it honestly before they buy. So let me walk through what people get wrong. The first thing people get wrong is thinking prices softening equals affordability, and it doesn't. It may mean improved leverage, it may mean better negotiating conditions, it may mean more choice. It may also mean sellers are adjusting to slower demand. And right now, that is exactly what the local data suggests. The Realtor Association of Sarasota and Manatee County reported that there were 625 closed single-family home sales in Sarasota County in February of this year, which is up 6% year over year, while the median price fell to $475,000, and cash sales still make up 40% of our transactions. Interest rates are not a real conversation here. That combination tells you the market is active, it's more balanced, and still very influenced. It does not tell you that the carrying cost of ownership is suddenly light. That distinction matters because buyers sometimes see prices cool and assume the hard part is over, and really that is just the first layer. And this gets even clearer when you look at condos and townhomes. The Realtor Association of Sarasota and Manatee County also reported that condo and townhome median sale price in January 2026 was $315,000, which is down 10% year over year. And that sounds more approachable on the surface, but condos can carry HOA structures, reserve issues, insurance layers, and special risk assessments that make a lower purchase price only one part of the real cost story. That is why I do not want viewers to hear this episode as a warning against Sarasota, because it's not. It is a warning against shallow math. The second thing people get wrong is underestimating property taxes after the purchase. This is one of the biggest ones. Florida property taxes can look simple when you are just browsing listings, then they get very specific once you own. Sarasota County Property Appraiser's Office says that the tax estimator on their website is specifically meant to help new buyers estimate a more realistic first tax year after acquisition, because taxes for a new owner may differ significantly from what the prior owner paid. The office also explains that to qualify for homestead, you must own and occupy the property as your permanent residence on January 1 of the year you're claiming, and you generally must apply by March 1st. That means the tax number on a listing can be one of the most misleading numbers in the entire search process, because the person selling the house may have owned it for years. They may have homestead, they may have Save Our Homes benefit, they may have portability history, and you may not have the same tax structure on day one. The Sarasota County Property Appraiser also notes that homestead owners can transfer some or all of their Save Our Homes benefit to a new homesteaded property in Florida, which is why two buyers can look at the same purchase price and still end up with different tax outcomes depending on their history. That is a huge deal, because people often ask, what are the taxes on this house? And that is not really the right question. The right question is, what are the taxes likely to be for me after purchase based on my own occupancy plan, my filing timeline, and whether I have portability? That is the adult version of the question. The third thing people get wrong is treating insurance like a side note. In many other parts of the country, you can do that. In coastal Florida, you really cannot. Insurance is not background noise here. It is one of the main characters in the monthly budget. And I'm not saying that to sound dramatic. I'm saying it because it changes what a house actually costs to own. The Florida Office of Insurance Regulations July report from last year's Property Insurance Stability Report said that the share of homeowners and condo unit owners insured in the voluntary market was improving, while Citizens' policy count was beginning to decline after earlier market disruption. So state officials also announced in January that Citizens policyholders would start to see premium reductions at renewal starting in spring of this year, and that is helpful context, and it does not erase the fact that insurance still sits much closer to the center of the budget conversation in Florida than many out-of-state buyers expect. And this is where the implication gets stronger. Even when the broader insurance market shows signs of stabilization, the individual property still matters. Roof age matters, opening protection matters, flood zone matters, distance to the water matters, construction type, claim history, elevation, they all matter. This is why two homes with similar prices can feel completely different once the ownership math is built out. And it is why a buyer who shops only by sale price can get blindsided. The fourth thing people get wrong is not checking flood risk early enough. That is one of those issues that people often push to the middle of the search when it really belongs near the front. Sarasota County says its current flood map information maps, they became effective in March of 2024, and the county explains that Zone X represents minimal flood risk, while shaded Zone X500 reflects moderate flood risk. The county also knows that even areas where flood insurance is not required can still flood from severe rain and drainage issues. And FEMA says its Flood Map Service Center is the official public source for flood hazard information. That matters because flood is not just a box to check. It affects monthly costs. It affects your peace of mind. It affects your future resale logic. And in some parts of the market, it affects whether the home still feels like a smart fit once the romance wears off. This is especially important for buyers drawn to the west of the trail or the Barrier Islands or any of those bayfront pockets or older coastal neighborhoods. Those areas can be fantastic and they need a more serious upfront review. Again, this is not fear, this is precision. The fifth thing people get wrong is forgetting that utilities here are part of the cost of living story too. Not because utilities in Sarasota are some extreme outlier by themselves, but because they stack on top of everything else. Sarasota County Public Utilities says that effective November of last year, county customers now pay a monthly billing charge. They also pay a monthly readiness to serve water charge, and it's based on the tiered water consumption. The City of Sarasota's 2026 brochure for utility rates lists a base charge with a higher per 1,000 gallon charges as usage rises. Now layer that on to Florida heat, lawn irrigation, pool ownership, and the fact that a lot of people moving here want that outdoor living. That is how the quiet categories start to build. Water, sewer, irrigation, electric, internet, trash, pool service, landscaping, one by one, none of those categories feels shocking. But together, they shape the monthly life, and that is what people miss. The sixth thing people get wrong is assuming newer always means cheaper month to month. And sometimes it does. Sometimes it absolutely does not. And newer homes can help with insurance logic, system reliability, and near-term maintenance, but they can also come with HOA fees, CDD fees in some communities, and a daily pattern that is more car-dependent than the buyer expected. Older homes can come with more maintenance risk and sometimes more insurance complexity. They can also come with lower fees, more established settings, and a lifestyle fit that makes the overall decision better for the owner. This is where geographic anchors matter. If you are comparing west of the trail to downtown condo living, to Palmer Ranch, to Lakewood Ranch's adjacent neighborhoods, or newer east of I-75 communities, you are not just comparing price. You are comparing the monthly structure. And if you do not break that structure apart, you can easily talk yourself into the wrong house for the right reason. The seventh thing people get wrong is ignoring solid waste, stormwater, and a local service layer. People laugh at this category until they own the house, and then suddenly this boring line item matters. Sarasota County's Solid Waste Department notes a new surcharge on electronic payments beginning this year, and the county publishes landfill disposal and curbside service details because waste collection, extra pickup rules, and disposal fees are all part of our local ownership reality. The city of Sarasota also notes that stormwater systems inside the city limits are maintained through an interlocal agreement with Sarasota County, and the city highlights future stormwater projects because drainage and stormwater management are not abstract infrastructure in this region. So why does this all matter in a cost of living episode? Because in a coastal market, infrastructure is part of the lifestyle bill. Stormwater matters more when the rain comes down hard, and drainage matters more when their property choice sits in a flood-sensitive pattern. Waste and maintenance rules matter more when you own, renovate, landscape, or prepare for storm season. This is what I mean by Sarasota being specific. It is not only a beautiful place, it is a place where the service layer matters because the environment is not passive. The eighth thing people get wrong is underestimating maintenance because they are still thinking like shoppers. This one is huge. Shopping is emotional. Ownership is very operational. People walk a house and think about furniture. I want them to think about the roofs, windows, older plumbing, the lifespan of their AC, trimming the trees, pool equipment, hurricane preparation, and deferred maintenance, and whether the house supports the way they want to live without quietly turning into a money pit. This is where I think a lot of buyers, especially relocation buyers, get caught up in the visual side of Sarasota. The light is pretty, the landscape is lush, the trees are mature, the curb appeal is strong, and the lifestyle is very attractive. And all of that is real. And the maintenance rhythm here is real too. Heat, humidity, storms, salt air, it's all real in coastal pockets, and those realities show up in ownership. The ninth thing people get wrong is adjusting their spending assumptions for Sarasota's lifestyle. And yet, it changes the feel of the budget fast. People move here and start using the place the way it was built to be used. They go out more, they host more, they entertain outdoors, they want that boat and the golf membership, they want the beach set up, and they want club access. They want the flexibility to say yes when friends visit. And none of that is wrong, it's just not free. And there is one more place this shows up: transportation and pattern of life. A buyer may tell themselves they are saving money by living further east, and on paper they might be. Then they realize they drive more, eat out more in between errands, spend more time in the car, and use the things they moved here for less often than they imagined. And on the other side, someone may pay more to live west or closer to downtown and still feel better about the total spend because the place fits the way they actually move through the week. That is why cost of living is not only accounting. It's your behavior, and behavior is local. So when someone asks, is Sarasota affordable? I think part of the answer depends on whether they are budgeting for survival or for the way they actually plan to live once they get here, because those are not the same number. And this is where market interpretation matters. A market can soften and still feel expensive to live in. A list price can look manageable and still lead to a monthly life that feels heavier than expected. A buyer can technically afford the payment and still feel comfortable with the ownership pattern that follows. That is why I keep coming back to this idea. The real cost of living in Sarasota is not the price of entry. It is the price of continuity. Can you comfortably keep living the life after the excitement of the move is gone? That is the right question. And this is where I want to make a forward prediction. I think buyers in Sarasota are going to keep getting more disciplined about monthly carrying costs, not less. And it's because more inventory and more negotiating room give people time to think. And when people have time to think, they stop focusing only on whether they can win the house and start focusing on whether the house works long term. The current market supports that shift. Buyers have more room to compare, more room to quote their insurance, more room to check those flood maps, more room to estimate their taxes properly, and more room to think about daily function, not just purchase price. And honestly, that is healthy. It produces better decisions. So what should someone actually do with this information? Start with the full monthly budget, not the mortgage. Estimate your taxes for your ownership scenario, not the seller's. Check the flood maps early on and get quoted insurance before you absolutely fall in love. Separate your wants from your monthly obligations and look at each neighborhood not just as a price point, but as a different cost structure. This is decision guidance, and it matters more than any generic statement about Sarasota being cheap or expensive. Because Sarasota is not one cost story. It is several different cost stories depending on where you live, how close you are to the water, how new the property is, what kind of lifestyle you are trying to create, and whether your budget is built for ownership reality or just for search stage optimism. So if I had to bring this whole episode down to one sentence, it would be this. What people get wrong about Sarasota's cost of living is that they think the home price tells the story when really the story is told by the monthly life attached to the property. That is the truth. And if you can understand that before you buy, you can make a much stronger move here. Because the goal is not just to get into Sarasota. The goal is to get into Sarasota in a way that still feels good once it becomes your normal life. And that is where smart moves happen.